Hey, um, we're sitting here with Sault Ste. Marie mayoral candidate Fred Dovigi, and this is the third of 3 interviews that we're doing. And this one concerns taxes. Early on, you got the reputation as someone who would fight high taxes, which have certainly been an issue with many of our seniors who are on a fixed income, as well as young families who are from modest income brackets who are struggling to keep afloat. Why don't you share a little bit about us, how this became an issue for your campaign?
Well, there are only two certainties in life, death and taxes. With respect to taxes, year in and year out, we're going to pay them. It doesn't matter what we do. That tax bill is going to come in if we have a residential property, if we have a commercial property, or we have an industrial property. The problem in Sault Ste. Marie is that we have a shrinking industrial tax base. Our large industrial employer has been right-sizing for a number of years, and that right-sizing for our large industrial taxpayers has really caused a problem for the commercial and residential components within the community, because there's been a shift of that taxation burden to those two groups, the commercial and residential. And within the commercial sector, you find small businesses that are saying, we've had enough. We're being taxed too much for the services that we're receiving. And so they had a survey conducted through the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, which they made an effort or an attempt to express this to council 2 years ago, but it sort of fell on deaf ears. The individual taxpayer within the community has been saying this to council for the last number of years. Our taxes are too high. Now, is that a true statement? Fred Dovigi is not in a position at this point to say definitively yes or no that statement is true. However, what I have said throughout this campaign is that I want to introduce a value for money concept or audit process, which will demonstrate to people that where the expenditures are being made by the municipality are fully warranted or they're not warranted. Just having an outside agency come in and look at what we do, because the global aspect of budgeting that the city follows right now provides for a lockup of funds within various departments and that, and leads to the exclusion with requests from other groups and agencies year in and year out. They don't get their fair share of what's being requested here.
Okay. What are some of the ways you would address this inequality?
Well, the inequality starts with having, again, a process that looks at each aspect of the budget process. That's where the whole thing begins. Okay? Council has the wherewithal based on the $140 million budget that it presently has, and those decisions impact every service delivery component that we have within the community. And the time has really come to take a fresh approach as to how those dollars are allocated. Value for money auditing is an assistance tool that would help members of council be able to make better decisions, and at the same time it would make for better managers within the corporation. And so I want to move on that very, very quickly. I've explained this concept to each of the, quote, wannabe candidates through my town hall meetings, and to the incumbents that are presently sitting on city council. I think it's a concept that they now understand, and should I not be successful on November the 13th, hopefully the message that I've provided them with will carry forward, and some discussion can take place with respect to that going forward.
Okay. What are some practical examples of this concept in action? Use hypothetical situations.
Well, hypothetical. Let's take Community Services Board. If, by way of example, their budget last year was $5 million, looking at constructing the 207 budget, they're probably going to be told you're not going to receive any increase save and except for negotiated wages and benefits. And you can apply that to all the other departments. However, that system of budgeting has been in place for about 10 years now. So there's a lockup of funds there, which maybe aren't required anymore. But we don't know that. No one knows that. It just sits within that department. So I want to do a cleansing here. I want to go back to a zero-based budgeting system that provides for full accountability on a line-by-line base item within each department. And then each department at least has a recognition of what's happening in the other departments and where and why the monies are being allocated to those line items. I think once everybody's on the same page, it's much easier, okay, to move forward collectively.
Okay. What are some other ways that City Council can be good stewards of the taxpayers' money?
Well, I think you have to be, in the first instance, you have to have a certain sensitivity to the fact that a significant number of people within the community are on fixed incomes. And you can live the dream and you may want to do this, that, or the other thing. However, if you have, say by way of example, 25% of the people who do not have the financial wherewithal to buy into this, then you have to give consideration to perhaps scaling back on some of the things that you're doing and saying, we just can't deliver this because I don't have a large enough base in the community to do this. It's the very same with raising a family. I mean, you know, there's unlimited needs and wants when you have children, as a lot of people would know. However, you have to draw the line somewhere and say, you know what, I can't afford to do this at this time. I may have a son that wants a $300 pair of skates that are very fashionable, but perhaps in terms of my budget, I can only afford $100. So it's all about making decisions and priorities and where your values are.
Okay. Have you mentioned some of these seniors on fixed income? Have you talked to them at all?
Oh, I've talked to hundreds of them. And the basic feeling, especially if there are a number of seniors in the community that are widowed, they just find that they're house rich to a degree and they're cash poor. And they don't have any options, and that's why I proposed that we partner with the Board of Education in terms of vacant lands and that, helping the boards demolish old schools and that, and creating senior citizen housing in these very, very, what I would call desirable areas. Seniors don't want to move out of their area. I've lived in this area for 30 years. I don't want to go to another part of the community, but I very much, if I were in that position, would want to live in the area, and with these vacant school properties and that, it really affords us an opportunity to get a number of sectors in the community involved in terms of economic development. The realty sector, the construction sector, working with the Board of Education, because they now have a new 10-year capital expenditure plan that they're embarking on for new schools, which is really, really important to the community going forward. So again, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's anything the city does, okay, it means that you require a lot of energy to sit down, have these discussions, put the right people in place to get the job done. And by the same token, if getting the job done right means having to suggest to people that we need more money at this time, then I'm prepared to do that. As long as it makes sense and there's a program that can be understood by the vast majority of people, then I'm all for it.
Okay. And then lastly, is there anything you'd like to add before we conclude? You have about 30 seconds.
Well, you know, everything is always about money. And so if we can say at the end of the day that we're spending your money responsibly, okay, then I think we have a team situation going here. I see a real lack of that at the moment in this community.
Okay, thank you.